friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here today to talk about double extractions. Some people call them dual extractions, and either terminology is acceptable. I know because I looked it up. While I'm going to be talking more specifically about turkey tail mushroom, I'm going to show you another type of double extraction that is not necessary, but something you might want to consider. But I'm not going to be actually showing how to do this. I'm just going to explain what I did with this. So a dual extraction or double extraction is most commonly used with things like mushrooms. And that can be reishi, that can be turkey tail, that can be lion's mane. And I did come across a really great website that was helpful for this. I actually found two good ones. I'll probably link both of them down below, but the one for sure I'll be linking has this really great chart in it, which I'll show the chart here, but a lot more great information in there. And I thought what was interesting in the chart is it shows that when it comes to a turkey tail mushroom, it's absolutely not necessary to do an alcohol extraction with your turkey tail, but it does show with other mushrooms it's a good idea to do the alcohol extraction. But I had already had, because I harvested this past year, we got a lot of turkey tail from our other piece of property, and yes, we left some behind to make sure it can repopulate. I didn't clean it all out. And anyway, so I had, I think 5 jars like this total from the first one, and then we got a little bit more later on, which was more recently. So I thought, well, since I have so many jars and I'd already got it all dried up, I thought, why not just go ahead and try making an alcohol extraction? It's just not something I do a lot of, especially when you're talking about a spirit. A spirit is something that's not wine or beer. It's something such as vodka, tequila, bourbon, rum, and so on. And in this case, I used what I had on hand. I didn't want to use my good spiced rum that I save only for using with vanilla extract, but we happen to have some tequila on hand because it was left over from when my youngest son got married, and their wedding reception carried on over here, and they brought everything with them, and all that stuff got left here. And I'm like, what am I going to do with all this? So I finally decided, well, I'll use it to make an extract. And so that's what I made the turkey tail extract with. What I did first, and this is the most common way you're going to find that it's done, is you take your mushrooms, you fill your jar up. And my jar was, it wasn't packed full. I'd say about 3/4 of the way full. And I used a quart jar like this, and then topped it off with the alcohol and let it sit. I always let all of my extracts sit for no less than 2 months. Though a lot of people will say 4 to 6 weeks is plenty. I usually just let mine sit until I remember them. And typically it's no less than 2 months down the road. And so after I did that, I then strained out what they call the marc. That's the substance that you're extracting. I strained that out. And you want to try to press as much of that extract out of there as possible. The second step of the double extraction would be then to either take fresh material, like I could have taken some fresh mushrooms, or the most common way, which is what I did, and yes, it is the most common way from what I was reading, is to take the leftover mushrooms after I got all the alcohol out of them. I put them in a teapot. I top that off with water. It's a quart teapot is what it is. And I just filled it all the way up with water and actually let it simmer all day. So after it simmered for quite a while, I then lifted the lid of the teapot so a lot of the moisture could evaporate out until I had reduced it by 50%. Then I took that solution and mixed it in with the alcohol. Now, some people would disagree with doing it that way and would rather use fresh material because some people believe the alcohol can destroy the compounds that the water extraction, or the decoction, in other words, pulls out. So if you're using the use marc to do the decoction, you might not be getting as much out of it. Now, I agree with that to an extent, because it's the same reason why I don't use things like moonshine, Everclear, or anything that's a very high proof alcohol, because there are several herbalists that have been doing this for a very long time that believe that the high proof alcohols like that will destroy those compounds. But in my personal opinion, based on experience and what I've read about all the way across the board, is that an alcohol that's your standard, you know, like vodka, rum, etc., because it's not as high proof, it's not going to be as damaging. So your chances of destroying those compounds are going to be slim. However, if you want to play it safe, you can still do the method where you take a fresh batch of mushrooms and then do your decoction with that. And then, of course, I also, by the way, I don't recommend mixing them together until your decoction is fully cooled to at least room temperature, just to be on the safe side. Now, you might be wondering if you're new to this whole idea, because I was pretty new to it. I only learned about it maybe a year ago, started learning about it and or heard of it a year or two tops, and just never really looked into it until more recently because of the mushrooms themselves. So what happens is that your alcohol extraction is going to pull out the various terpenoids that you're going to find in your mushrooms, whereas your decoction is going to extract the beta glucans that you find in there. The alcohol will pull out one and the decoction will pull out the other. And the reason why an extract in this case, especially with most of your mushrooms, is important is that mushrooms have something called chitin in them. And the extract, whether it be the alcohol, the decoction, or both, breaks that down. And if you don't break it down, you're just eating the mushrooms as is, which is fine. You're still going to get benefits out of it. But when you just eat them as is, the terpenoids and whatnot are not going to be as bioavailable within the body unless you break down that chitin. That chitin is what prevents it from being as available. So that is the purpose of the extract. This is why making a decoction out of mushrooms, this is the most common way I'll use it, is I'll take the turkey tail mushroom, I'll throw it in my teapot along with some other woody substances that are best for decocting, such as whole cloves, Ceylon cinnamon sticks, fresh ginger, and star anise, and even orange peels, dried orange peels, and throw those into the pot and then just let it simmer for quite some time to really pull all the benefits. In the case of the orange peels, you're going to be pulling the quercetin out of those. And so you'll damage any vitamin C that'll be in there, but you'll pull the quercetin out. So that's a flavonoid, so that's going to help pull that out. Now, so that's it as far as the mushrooms go. And again, I highly recommend, if you're wanting to learn more about this and get more details and better understanding, they even talk about the possible idea of a triple extraction, which involves fermenting. They just touch on it, but it might give you some ideas to kind of look into further. So please go check out that link I'll be putting down below. But a totally different type of double extract that I've considered trying for some time, but just never saw the need for it. We're going to talk about herbs now. So whenever I do herbal extracts, I almost always use my homemade wine mixed with raw honey. And part of the reason for that is it has a better flavor. They both extract well, and the homemade wine is cheap because I'm making it myself and I'm making it from my own fruit, and I know exactly what's going in it. And so that's what I have here. This is actually an antibiotic extract. And I to be honest, I can't remember if I used any more than just nasturtium leaves in this, which is typically what all I would use. But I might have thrown some oregano or thyme or rosemary in this as well, because those can be great natural antibiotics, which, by the way, I have a video on that where I list off a bunch of natural antibiotics, because not everybody has access to nasturtium leaves because they don't grow them, and they're almost impossible to find sold in a dried form. And I'm not talking watercress, but a lot of people have access to thyme and rosemary and echinacea. If you don't grow it, you might be able to find it dried somewhere. So anyway, right here is that extract that's been sitting back there since, well, good grief, almost a year now, February of 2023. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to strain out. I'm using my chopstick here to scrape all those herbs off the side. Whoa, dang it. Wow, that's a nice mess. Yay, wonderful. This is why I don't usually do this stuff while trying to shoot a video at the same time, because I get distracted trying to explain and then I don't pay attention to what I'm doing. So yeah, be careful so you don't have a big old mess like I just made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press this out, as much of the liquid out of this as possible. And then when I get done doing that, I'm going to try to scrape as much of this in here and try to strain it out as well, because I don't want to waste any of that. And so I'll be back to you. I'll get back to you once I get all that done. Okay, so now that I got all that cleaned up, I'm going to take this, I'm going to actually run it back through this because I still ended up with a lot of herbs in there. Not that it's a big deal, especially considering what I'm going to do with this next. Now you'll see what my tincture looks like so far, or my extract. Tincture, extract, whatever you want to call it. There is some differences. I cover them basically in a video I'll link to down below, which, by the way, all tinctures are extracts. Just know that. That's why I call pretty much everything an extract. But a tincture typically involves using a spirit such as rum, vodka, bourbon, etc. So I'm going to use the funnel to help keep me from making another mess. And I'm just going to put a bunch more nasturtium leaves in there. These are dried nasturtium leaves. I could have added rosemary or some other herbs if I want, but I'm just going to do the nasturtium leaves. I find nasturtium to be a really great antibiotic. This is something we rarely ever use, but it's nice to have it in the event that we need it. So what's going to happen is I leave this for another 2 months. That's going to extract again. It's going to extract even more out of this, making my solution even stronger. I realize there's probably going to be some debate on that, because some people will say, well, your solvent is only going to extract so much. It can only hold so much. And so some people might consider this a waste, but I still want to give it a try, because I think if nothing else, it's going to pull out at least a little bit more. But since I'm doing this and I've already got it to here, I don't think I want to add, well, let me go ahead and add a little bit more to that. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and top that off with some more homemade wine. And, I did lose some of my liquid. Not too bad, not too bad. I was able to scrape quite a bit of it back into the jar. I only got a little bit on the floor, surprisingly enough. And I could also add more honey to this, but I'm just going to stick with the homemade wine. And then let that extract for a couple more months. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase the date off here, and I'm actually going to put a new date that I'm starting this, so that I'll know for sure, or even write it down as a secondary date. That might be a better idea, so I'll remember that's actually a double extraction. Okay, well, that's it for my video on double/dual extractions and showing you a couple of different types, one involving herbs, one involving mushrooms. And I hope you found that helpful, and that maybe you learned something new, and it will help spur you into doing a little bit more research for yourself on that. And like I said, as far as the herbal one, I've never found, this is my first time trying it this way. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe it's any stronger, but using this in the past, it cured up a couple of ear infections that my kids had, and I think that was about it. I think that's all I ever got used for. And my pain extract, I've never done that, like double extracted that, yet it always works great for me. But I might try it with that at some point too, just to see. So if you're interested in more of my recipes I have a few. I don't do a ton of extracts, but I have a few recipes. I have the pain one. I have the antibiotic one. It's old, where I show an alcohol-free way to do it, by the way, as well. And then I have the one to help with sleep and to relax the muscles. So those are the three main ones I typically make. And so I'll share all three of those in the description box down below. So don't forget to click on more or show more somewhere right down here below the video screen to open that up to find all the links and any other information I'm putting in there. And any thoughts, ideas you'd like to share in comments down below. Have you done double or dual extractions? What kind have you done? And what types of solvents do you prefer to use for that? And I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.